I believe this with every fiber of my being. I think in 20 years, we're going to look at social media and say, what the were we thinking giving this to 12-year-old kids?
All right, here you go. You ready?
Let's do it.
This is the Living Numbers podcast, where everyone is interesting if you ask the right questions. My name is Tony Rambles, and I am your host. Today, I have a guest who has lived a full life, basically, before 40 years old. So he's got so much more to go. So here we go. Hailing from Big Bend, Wisconsin, he earned his degree in finance, Spanish, and management. That's our first triple major here on the podcast. He was in the top quartile of his cohort as an equity research associate while working at financial firm Robert W. Baird. He owns 3 Anytime Fitness health clubs, last time I checked, and 4 U-Break iFix cell phone repair stores, and a tech startup, all of which have won numerous honors and awards. He then founded Humans First out of his deep appreciation and love for people. How nice, Rob. To provide a one-of-a-kind consulting experience that analyzes people's efficiency and energy by paying attention to their technology mindfulness. He lets his curiosity guide conversations. The question asker, voracious reader, competitor, and optimizer of the 4-day work week, I present the Rob Krecak. I hope I said your last name right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tony. That was such a great introduction. I really appreciate that. Appreciate all the research. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Very grateful to chat with you and the listeners today.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. And, sometimes when you get people and you start to do this research and you see how full their lives are, I think that is the thing that invigorates me to like, man, I'm excited. Like, I want to ask about this. I want to ask about this and this. But one of the main things that stuck out to me, which is where we're going to start, is the 4-day work week. And so that's going to be our first number, 4-day work week. And so not too long ago, I saw an article online and it talked about the 4-day work week. I'm pretty sure it was over in Europe somewhere. Mm-hmm. So what in your childhood led to the avocation of the 4-day work week? So here, think about the relationships that you've had, the experiences that you've had. What are the things that you look back to in the past that triggered like, you know what? I think this 4-day work week thing is going to work.
Yeah, well, super appreciate your question, Tony. And, I was very fortunate to have really great, very supportive and loving parents. And they just, I couldn't have asked for better parents, like really grateful. They, my dad went to every single sporting event that I ever did for any sport ever, right? Like every track meet, every wrestling match, every football game. And my mom was our full-time caretaker. So my mom, her job was to raise us kids, my sister and myself. And, that was also such a great, great situation. And I'm super grateful for her because she obviously, did so many things for us raising us. And so both of my parents really emphasized the importance of family and us being supportive and being there for each other. And, what's interesting is if you look at the family structure and what's happening to society today in America, about 30 or 40 years ago, many more women started to go into the workforce, which of course I'm fully in support of and I think is a good thing. But one of the unintended side effects that we haven't thought about as a society is that now that there's 2 parents working in many households or almost all households, obviously there's less time spent between kids and parents. It's just how it is. And the reason that moms are going into the workforce is because we're essentially a consumerist society and we want to buy all these things, right? We want to buy a big house. We want to buy a nice car. We want to buy, but what we haven't thought of as a society is, well, have we eclipsed the point where, we are doing good for our families by spending all this time working and buying more stuff? I believe the answer
Mm,
is we're not. We're not serving our families well by working all this extra time just so we can buy more shit that we don't really need. And so I think the thing that really resonates with me from my childhood was the importance of family and spending time with the people you care about, and balancing that with, making a living, right? And because
right.
obviously we need to work, we need to pay bills, we need to make money, because money allows us to do things and buy things. But I'm here to tell people, or I guess not to tell people, but to bring some awareness to the fact that, this concept of a 5-day work week, that's almost a century old. It first came up in 1926 with Henry Ford and the assembly line. And so
Yep.
this concept is literally almost a century old. And look at how many things have changed during that time. And so I believe that it's time to think about this differently. We don't have to be working 5 days a week. We can work less, accomplish the same amount of stuff, get paid the same, and spend more time with the people that matter most to us. That to me is what's really, really powerful.
I agree. And there are so many structures that we have in America that haven't changed in such a long time, even though our world is tremendously different. We were talking before the show about dating, and
Mhm.
just how 10 years ago dating was totally different as far as, the apps and how people meet. And so you talked about you and your wife and how you met, and I talked the same thing, but our world has changed. I work in an industry in education where we've been doing things the same way for so long, and we haven't updated our processes at all. So where did you start as far as process? How do these things work when you came up with not came up with the 4-day work week? I think it's something people have talked about, but when you started to put like a plan in place, where'd you start?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I can start with a little story about myself, and it can kind of help you understand how I got thinking about all this, what I call technology mindfulness. And so, one of my favorite books of all time was The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And that book came out in 2008. I really think it completely changed the self-help industry and how people thought about productivity and work and retirement and money and time and all these different things. It was an amazing book, right? And so I read that book and I just kind of became obsessed with, how I use my time and my energy. And I thought I was really productive, right? Like I thought I really had this down and that I was, using my time wisely. But one of the things that I also kind of realized over the last several years is that I have ADHD. And I think that this was kind of something that was undiagnosed, but I probably had it my whole life. And so it's much
Mhm.
easier for me compared to the average person to kind of get derailed and be distracted, right? Whatever, that's fine. And so I was an entrepreneur. I had all these businesses, and
Mhm.
I had no structure to my day, and I would just begin the day and I would
Mm.
think I would be productive and get a lot done. And, there was a lot of days where it got to the end of the day and I was like, man, I feel exhausted. I feel like I did a lot of stuff, but if I wrote down a list of the things that I actually accomplished, the list would be
Right.
very short. It would be very, very short. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I have read so many things about productivity and using my energy, and I'm accomplishing nothing. What the hell is going on? And then
Right.
I started doing all these experiments on myself that I was telling you about earlier. And there are hundreds of them. Like maybe if I use this one technology tool differently, what does that do? Or maybe if
Yeah,
I
like what?
arrange.
Give us some insight. Give us a couple of those experiments that you did, just a few.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of them is that I decided, and again, like this, even within this, we'll call it the tech mindfulness space, this blows people's mind. I have completely deleted all email off my phone. Completely. I don't have an
Okay.
email app on my phone whatsoever. There's no way for me to check it. And so that to me was one of the things that absolutely changed my entire relationship with my phone. Not only was I not checking it all the time, but I didn't feel the need to go into it and mindlessly go to the email inbox just to like check something, right? And again, like I was
Yep.
very prone to do that as someone with ADHD. And so
Me too.
yeah, yeah, you're feeling me, right? So then what I realized is if I could funnel all of my mail checking activity to just my desktop computer, where I'm way more proficient and way more productive. Not only do I not have to check my phone as often, I'm not as anxious because I'm not worried about checking my phone or my email, but I also actually spend way, way, way less total time in my email as a whole. And so I'm saving time. So like, it made me less stressed. It made me less anxious. It made me check my phone less, which made me be more present and allowed me to save a ton of time. Like that's a win, 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 like a, win
Yeah.
across the board. And so like, that was a huge experiment that I think went really well. And to this day, I still don't have my email on my phone at all.
Nice. Nice. I have a principal, and he never wanted to get like a new school phone, like a smartphone. And kind of for that reason, he's like, I need for when I want to do work, like this is specific to work. I don't want all of this stuff on my phone always coming at me all the time. And now you feel the need to go at it all the time. And so it's this back and forth. So you're not alone with that one, Rob. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what's interesting is I could kind of explain to you why I believe technology is like the anti-meditation, right? So let me just explain. So for humans with meditation, when we meditate, right? Any human, not just me in particular, when any human meditates, one of the main benefits that they get is that meditation brings us into the present. It allows us to be here and now, which then by definition doesn't make us or allow us to worry about the future or ruminate about the past. So this sense of presence is very helpful for humans when we meditate. Well, when you think about what technology does, it is the exact opposite of that. It does the opposite. When we get a notification on our smartphone or we, check our email, what happens is we are pulled out of the present and we're sucked into this digital world. And so all these things that technology does are really pull us out of the present and put us in this digital world where we do ruminate about the past, or we do worry about, more likely with technology, we worry about the future. And therefore so if we're doing that to ourselves hundreds and hundreds of times a day, we're pulling ourselves out of the present many hundreds of times a day. It's not surprising that that would be a bad thing. And again, it's like the opposite of meditation.